Hi and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today is going to be my most recent weekly wrap up. So I'm like for sure out of my slump. I have read quite a bit this week, which I'm absolutely buzzing about, and I'm already like nearly finished another 2 books at the time of filming. And I have decided, I guess, to put a wee bit more of a focus on my I seriously need to finish this challenge. I was just in the mood to finish with a couple of series that I was enjoying this week, so that's what I've been doing. Also, so as if you hear any mad banging and clanging, we are still getting the roof done. So first up, I read The Emperor of the Evening Stars by Laura Thalassa, and this is the novella in between books 2 and 3 in the Bargainer series. And this book is from Daisy's perspective, whereas the other books have been from Callie's perspective. And we sort of go back in time and we see like baby days, and then it goes right up to present day. And I actually really enjoyed this. I think I enjoyed reading from Daisy's perspective a lot more than I enjoyed reading from Callie's perspective. I find Des to be less of an annoying main character protagonist, and it just has my full heart. Like I say all the time, the character type that I just love is like boys with daddy issues who are like hard on the outside but absolutely be softies for the lassie that they love and will protect them fiercely. Like it's just a thing that I have, especially when they're royal, like Hamlet, Magnus Bane, you know, there's so many more, but they aren't coming to me at this minute. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought it was really well done. The only minor issue that I had with this book, to be honest, is the way that it's laid out. So because it's covering such a span of time, you get it like chapter 7, To Kill a King, however many years ago it was. Fine, and that makes sense, but like then just randomly it'll still go 220 years ago. And it's like, I know we're still 220 years ago, and like it's no always a new chapter. Like I just didn't feel like there was a need for it. If we're continuing the same story, we're still in the same time period. Like I don't feel like that merits a new chapter, but that was just me, and that's like a tiny wee issue. This was a 5-star read. I really enjoyed it. I feel like we get a much deeper understanding of Des as a character, which I enjoyed. I feel like we really got to see his like full-on pining for Callie, which was great to read. And we just got to find out a lot more about his childhood and a lot of the secrets that he's been keeping that we maybe haven't managed to figure out yet from Callie's perspective. So I really enjoyed this, and this ended in a bit of a cliffhanger. So I went right into Dark Harmony by Laura Thalassa, and this is the last book in the Bargainer series, and like it's a bit of a chunk, but I swear to God I read this in near enough a day. Like I started it and I was maybe like 70 pages or so in, and then the next again day I was off work and I got up super early, like maybe about 5:30, 6 or whatever, and I lay in bed reading for a couple of hours, and then like was just enjoying it so much that me and Simon spent some time that afternoon reading, and then in the evening I just went for a big long bath and read, and then I sat up till like 12:30 at night finishing the book because I just could not put it down, and so I read majority of this in the one day. It was just thoroughly addictive. You know, I do have some issues with this book, but it was a 5-star read. It was a great end to the series and I really enjoyed it, but I can't really talk about the issues without spoiling anything, so we're going to go into spoiler territory. So if you're not interested in this being spoiled, skip to when I start talking about the next book. So some of my issues that I had with this book again was with Temper's character, and I just feel like Laura Thalassa does not write like your POC characters very well. I absolutely hated Temper in this. Her dialogue was ridiculous. Also, sorry if you can hear me wheezing, like I've got a wee bit of a cold and I feel like every time I breathe I can hear myself wheeze. But anyway, I just really didn't like her dialogue. It was very reminiscent of the first book, and she was in this one a lot more than she was the middle book. So really frustrating. I hated all of this, bitch this, fuck that, girl that. Like, it just didn't feel very natural to me, that language being used all the time. I didn't like that. So that was a bit of a miss. And then also, I like, there is so much smexy time in this, and I obviously don't read smut. Like, it's never something, like, if you're here for smut recommendations on this channel, but it's never going to happen. Like, I just get a bit bored, to be honest, with sex in books. And to be fair to Laura Thalassa, the sex scenes that have been in the previous books, like, I have enjoyed. Like, I'm obviously rooting for these two characters. It's been like a long drawn out piney thing, you know. That's how I like my romances, slow and lingering. So like, when they finally got together, I was like, cool, excellent, glad yous are having a great time, like, go for it. But this book is like plot point sex scene, plot point sex scene, plot point sex scene. And there was just so much in this book, whereas the previous books there's maybe only been like 1 or 2 scenes for the entire book, which I feel like is a fine balance considering the amount of plot and everything else that is happening. But like, this is the last book in the series, and so while I appreciate this is maybe the last chance that we were going to get to see like Des and Callie Buck, also this is the last chance that I'm going to get to ever be in this world and be with side characters that I've grown attached to, get all the answers that I really need to get to, and have the story that I'm invested in wrap up in a really satisfying way. And so I feel, to be honest, that the book is as long as it is just because of the amount of sex scenes in there. And I did find myself being like, oh, another sex scene, because I just wanted to know what was happening. And like, it is wrapped up brilliantly, and I did enjoy the ending, but I just a bit annoying with the amount of sex that was put in there. And then also Callie I found to be quite annoying in this book. She just is still quite immature about things, and I think going for the last book and seeing how much Des loves her and how much he feels for her and how much he is willing at any point to sacrifice for her, to see her just being like a snobby wee cow at points in this book, like being a proper stroppy wee madam, I was like, you do not deserve his love. And found myself getting a wee bit defensive of Des at points. And then she's also just like the slowest person ever, like forever the last person in the room to figure anything out, which is annoying because like the whole premise of the book is that she's meant to be this really badass private investigator. Like, well, how can you be, because you're slow as fuck, like you never click on anything. She doesn't even realise until like 3/4 of the way through this book that she could maybe even use her powers to like solve what's happening. And it's like, are you for real? Like, literally the first chapter of this book you find out you get your new powers, and I'm thinking, cool, Callie's going to save the day. Like, I knew where we were going, Callie. How did you know? You know what I mean? Like, it's your body, it's your powers. Anyway, rant aside, it was a 5-star. Like, I really, really did enjoy it. I think that the series wrapped up really well. And my annoyances were just annoyances. Like, I sat up to 12:30 at night to read it and to get it finished. I feel like I can't rate it any lower than a 5-star when it had that gripping effect on me. I feel like it would be doing it a disservice to rate it lower, even though I did have some issues with the book. But I appreciate that like this was indie published. Laura Thalassa at the time of writing this was an indie author, so like these are traditionally published now, but I'm reading the indie pubbed versions. But aye, so that's where we are with that. That is another series finished for me. I seriously need to finish this challenge, and I'm very pleased. And then I read Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater, and this is the second book in the Dreamers trilogy, which is like the sort of a spin-off to the Raven Cycle. The books focus on Ronan, who is a character in the Raven Cycle, and also his brothers. I also read Grey Warren by Maggie Stiefvater, which is the third and final book in this trilogy, and I'm going to talk about the two of these at the same time, I think. So I went into these obviously buzzing because like the Raven Cycle was one of my favourite series that I have ever read. I thoroughly enjoyed them. When we moved into this house, I literally binged the 4 books or like a space of 3 days or whatever while I was decorating. I was like heavy obsessed. So when I found out that this existed, I was buzzing for it because I just couldn't wait to be back in that world and be back with like my characters and my gang. However, like, although it's sort of related to the Raven cycle, like, it really isn't. Like, Ronan and the magic is basically the only thing that is related. The characters, I mean, we didn't really get much time with all the characters together, and we focus a lot more on Ronan's brothers as well, and it not just being like a Ronan story, which I was a wee bit disappointed about because I do love my boy Ronan. But I didn't enjoy these as much as other books that I've read by Maggie Stiefvater. Pretty much anything that I have read by Maggie Stiefvater at this point has been a 5-star. The entire Dreamer trilogy were 4 stars, and I know that a 4-star is still like a pretty decent read. Like, I'm here like, don't pick these books up because they're gash. That's not what I'm saying. Like, they are very, very good books. I think that I was just disappointed because of how much I loved and fucking adored the Raven cycle, that these didn't really live up to that, I guess. I think that the plot in here is really good. I just feel like we get a lot less character development in these books than we did with the Raven cycle. Like, the Raven cycle I felt was very character focused, although we did get loads of badass plot, whereas I feel like these are pretty plot heavy, less character development. We get a lot of character development for Ronan's brothers and some side characters, but maybe not necessarily as much for Ronan, which like is the reason I'm reading this book. I don't know, I just felt like these weren't as engaging and they weren't as gripping as other Maggie Stiefvater books that I've read. I just didn't enjoy them as much. Mr. Impossible, there's like so much art chat in here because one of the side characters like is a, well, she does art fraud basically. I can't remember the technical term, but she essentially like does replicas, right? That's what she does. She does replicas of paintings, and so we talk so much about art in here, and I'm not really a very arty person. Like, I'll go to a museum or whatever and be like, oh aye, that's a nice painting, but it's not something that I'm pure into. So I felt like that was quite boring for me, and I didn't ever really connect to her character at all. And I don't know if it was just because like we had all of this other chat going on, but I just didn't really ever connect to her. And so like, she's a big character in this series, and so not really connecting to her. And basically when her point of view came about, I was a bit like, oh, here we go again. Like, I just wasn't interested. And then Grey Warren, like, Grey Warren was so good, and I really loved the way that the story wrapped up, and I really loved getting that sort of a deeper explanation and understanding of like the magic system. And you know, I really liked like Ronan and his brothers and stuff coming together in this book. But I wasn't as drawn to it, and I wasn't as keen to pick it up. Like, when it came to reading this book, I was just like, right, okay, let's get through it, and I never really want to feel that with a book. But I did obviously enjoy all my time that I had with Ronan, and I really liked the ending of this book as well. I think that things were wrapped up nicely, and that we probably will never venture back into this world, and like, rightly so. I think everything that needed to be said has been said. I feel like this one, although you could probably describe the Raven cycle and the Dreamer trilogy as magical realism, I feel like I am not a huge fan of magical realism, to be honest. It only works for me in tiny wee situations where I find a sweet spot and I'm like, I love that. Garth Nix is one of the magical realism authors that I really enjoy, specifically the Left-Handed Bookseller series. Really enjoying that. But this felt more magical realism to me than the Raven cycle, because the Raven cycle, like, we're in this wee town, and although it is magical realism, we're almost like a step removed, and Blue's family are also feel like magical and witchy, and we're involved in the supernatural, and so it feels a lot more fantasy than magical realism, and this definitely felt more magical realism to me, and it just didn't really work the same. So both of these books were 5 stars, but that is another series that I have finished, and I'm still glad that I have read these. That's sad that I'll never be able to get into the world again, but it just means that the Raven cycle is ripe for a reread. Thank thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you are reading at the moment. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!